What is up? Good mic work. Back at you with episode 424. I hope everybody out there is having a great week. In this episode, you'll hear me review this past week's Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live. I'm also going to predict the entire Payback pay-per-view coming up this Sunday on the WWE Network. And at the very end of the commentary, I'll get into a handful of other wrestling news items as well, including the latest on the Mauro Ranallo WWE JBL situation. First of all, before we get started, I just want to welcome any new listeners that might be joining us for the first time. I have noticed that the YouTube channel has gained a whole bunch of new subscribers in the past couple of weeks. So if this is your first time listening to me, make sure you subscribe if you have not yet already. And if you like what you hear, please like this video. I'm shooting for, 300-400 likes on this video. So if you guys could help me out with that, I would really appreciate it. You can visit my website, goodmicworkcommentaries.com, and view this YouTube video right over there. Or you can download an MP3 version of this episode to be listened to on the go. You can also find me on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. And please follow me on social media by liking my Facebook page and follow me on Twitter at GoodMicWork. So just wanted to formally welcome all of the new listeners aboard, and I hope you stick with me. Let's jump into Raw this week and not waste any time because we do have a lot to talk about. I'm going to just casually discuss this show. We're not going to go in order and talk about every little tidbit. I'm just going to talk about the major things. For those of you who do follow me on Twitter, know that I wasn't home to live tweet on Monday for Raw. I think it's like the third week in a row I have not been here, and I'm usually home every Monday. So hopefully next week we'll be back to normal and I'll be up to live tweet during the show. But I had to catch the replay after the fact, and Raw wasn't as good this week as it has been the past couple of weeks, so I found myself skimming through a lot of it and just trying to watch the major parts. So I'm going to talk about those first, and then maybe we'll backtrack and talk about some of the less notable things on Monday Night Raw. But the big match, even though it was not the main event, was the dumpster match that was announced earlier on in the week between Braun Strowman and Kalisto, and this is stemming from Braun Strowman going completely batshit again last week for the second week in a row and completely killing everybody, including Kalisto, and he threw him inside of a dumpster. So WWE decided to make a dumpster match, something we haven't seen in many years in the WWE, on Raw between these two, and a lot of us were predicting that Roman Reigns was going to make an appearance in this match and cost Braun Strowman the match. I think everybody was calling that out. But it didn't happen. Braun Strowman lost this match on his own. He lost to Kalisto in the dumpster match. Now, I'm going to be the first one probably. I haven't heard what a lot of other YouTubers have been saying, but I read a lot of complaints on Twitter about this, about what a travesty it was that Braun Strowman was defeated by Kalisto and how this is going to halt his push, and how stupid can the WWE be by having Kalisto defeat him. Jesus Christ, he didn't defeat him. He knocked him in a dumpster feet first. What did he do? Kick his legs out from under him, and Strowman just landed feet first right in the dumpster? So technically, yes, by the rules of the match, Kalisto did defeat Braun Strowman, but it's not like he pinned him. But even without Roman Reigns, what Kalisto did was not a big deal. That was not a burial in any way. Kalisto had, zero offense? He hit him with a couple of kicks, and Kalisto got lucky by knocking him into the dumpster, but I think all of that was a way to get Strowman over even more and have him go nuts again for the third week in a row. The first week we saw him almost kill Roman Reigns, and then last week he's raising hell all in the backstage area, and this week with Kalisto getting that upset victory over him, it gives him a chance to be crazy again. And this time he completely demolishes Kalisto after Kalisto beat him. I mean, Kalisto knew he was fucked. As soon as he kicked Strowman into that dumpster, Strowman got right in the ring and Kalisto's backing off and he's like, I'm about to die. And he pretty much did. Braun Strowman just picked him up with one hand by his face and just slammed him down to the mat, threw him in the dumpster, and then they did the spot. And this I didn't like. Some of the stuff we've been seeing from Braun Strowman the past couple of weeks has been awesome. So this time he locks Kalisto in the dumpster and they roll it up to the ramp and they do the spot that we've seen a couple of times. I remember when the Outlaws did it to Funk and Cactus, I believe, back in '98, and they might have done this one other time as well. But he locks him inside the dumpster and then Strowman wheels the thing right off the edge of the stage there, but it wasn't even that far. You know, the stage used to be higher. I guess it's just lower now, but that was probably maybe a 3 or 4 foot drop is all that it looked like. Where back in the day it was a little higher, probably 6 feet, maybe even 7 feet. Who knows? But it just didn't look as good this time around, and the dumpster did fall on its side, and I'm sure it was probably a little bit painful for Kalisto in there to take that bump, but it definitely wasn't the worst thing we've ever seen. I mean, I thought Braun Strowman would pick the fucking dumpster up over his head and throw it in the goddamn river or something. The guy's insane. So for him just to lock Kalisto in there and roll it off, I like that the loss in the dumpster match was a way to trigger Braun Strowman into going nuts again. I just wish he would have gone a little bit more nuts. I mean, this guy was tipping over ambulances 2 weeks ago. Now he's just rolling a dumpster off a 3-foot ledge. Big fucking deal. But I was not at all concerned with him losing the dumpster match. It was a dumpster match. Just think about that. A dumpster match. This is not something to be taken seriously. You win by throwing your opponent in a fucking dumpster. Who cares if Braun Strowman slipped and fell in their feet first? It doesn't mean he was buried. It doesn't mean his career's over. It doesn't mean he was speared and Superman punched by Roman Reigns and pinned clean in the middle of the ring. That's not what it means. Now, I will admit I would have preferred if Roman Reigns made an appearance. Well, I'm actually torn about it. I mentioned in my last commentary that after that beatdown that he took from Braun Strowman a couple of weeks ago, he needs to be off TV selling those injuries, and he really should not appear until Payback, and that's what they're doing. But at the same time, you guys all know how pay-per-view matches go, and when you watch the build to TV, a lot of time the momentum shifts from one side to the other, and this has been all Braun Strowman. Since Roman Reigns beat him at Fastlane, Braun Strowman has completely owned Roman Reigns in pretty much every single confrontation. So you would think that at Payback, Roman Reigns has got to, get the victory here, right? So what I was hoping to see was to have Roman Reigns come out and cost Braun Strowman the match, which angers Braun Strowman, gives Roman Reigns the momentum going into Payback, which would make it a lot easier to fathom Braun Strowman winning, because now, if Braun Strowman goes into Payback to defeat Roman Reigns, it doesn't match. It doesn't balance. He's already owned Roman Reigns. I know the fans would love to see that. I know the fans would love to see Braun Strowman kick Roman Reigns' ass for 4 straight weeks and then beat him at a pay-per-view match after that. But that's not really how WWE generally does things. So I'm worried that Roman Reigns is now, since he didn't appear on Monday Night Raw to get any revenge on Braun Strowman, that revenge is going to come at Payback. But I'm going to get into my official prediction on that match in a little while. And I think that if Roman Reigns does win, I think they have to book it much in a way that they did the dumpster match on Monday night. Yes, Braun Strowman technically lost the dumpster match, but it didn't make him look weak. He still stayed strong, and he still damn near murdered another wrestler for the 3rd or 4th week in a row on Raw. Whether he landed feet first in the dumpster or not, Braun Strowman is just as big a monster as he was a couple of weeks ago. I mean, these guys had a great match at Fastlane, so I wouldn't mind Braun Strowman winning. I mean, I actually think he should, especially if they're going to build him for Brock Lesnar. I thought Roman Reigns would get the title match against Brock at SummerSlam, but now if they want to hold that off till WrestleMania next year, Brock needs a big-time opponent. They've already teased a match with Braun Strowman in the past in recent weeks on Raw. So you would think that Strowman needs a big victory here to roll into SummerSlam and make this big, huge, grand match with Brock Lesnar. So looking at it from that perspective, yes, Braun Strowman needs to win. But if we see all of this stuff that we've been seeing from Braun Strowman, him killing everybody, him destroying automobiles and imploding rings and just demolishing every single person that gets in front of his face, it would be really anticlimactic, I think, if Roman Reigns comes back at Payback and just beats him in a very similar match to what they had at Fastlane. It feels like they've actually rebounded from that, does it not? With all of the destruction that Braun Strowman has been leaving in his wake, they've almost, kind of had him bounce back from that loss. If he goes into Payback and has the exact same match and loses in the exact same way, that's really going to suck. It's like, what the hell are you breaking rings and tipping over ambulances for if you're just going to beat this guy in 3 weeks? So I think WWE needs to figure out a way to where they can still have Roman Reigns be their guy, but maybe give Braun Strowman a victory or do something in that match that makes him just as scary as he was before he entered the match. That's all I really care about. Wins and losses matter sometimes, but also sometimes they don't. The match with Kalisto on Raw, that doesn't matter. Who cares that Braun Strowman lost? But if he goes into Payback and just has another grueling match and loses clean to Roman Reigns in the middle of the ring, that's a loss that will matter. So I think WWE needs to tread carefully here. And no matter what they do, whether it be a Payback or the next pay-per-view after that, which is it Extreme Rules? I don't even know. Whatever they do in the next couple of months between these two guys, have Braun Strowman come out of this thing stronger than he went into it. To me, that just makes the most sense, does it not? Correct me if I'm wrong there, right? So if they are going to have Brock And Strowman at SummerSlam, you gotta have Strowman win at some point. So what I'm thinking is maybe, since SummerSlam is still a few months away, and I don't know who else these two guys would feud with right now throughout the summer, this might be a 3 pay-per-view deal. I mean, one guy might win at Payback, the next guy wins at Extreme Rules, so maybe Roman Reigns comes back at Payback, gets the revenge victory against Braun Strowman, all the fans lose their mind, but they're not done yet. Braun Strowman comes out on Raw, says, bullshit, you shouldn't have beat me, goes nuts again, kicks the shit out of Roman Reigns, and then they set up some big gimmick match at Extreme Rules that would essentially be the blow-off, and Braun Strowman wins that. I can also live with that. So, if Roman Reigns wins at Payback, I'm sure the internet is going to explode. But if it leads to Braun Strowman still getting a victory over Roman in the future and maybe even winning the blow-off, then I think that can be good in the long run. Fans just might have to be patient. But like I said, whatever they do with this feud, I don't really care too much who wins certain matches and who lose certain matches, as long as the character itself does not become weaker as a result of this feud. WWE has spent a lot of money on Braun Strowman, a lot of time, a lot of energy, and you would think, in a logical mind that the WWE sees dollar signs in this guy and they should push him appropriately or accordingly. So to me, it just wouldn't make any sense for them to have a carbon copy of what we saw at Fastlane. At Payback, that wouldn't make any sense just to have Roman Reigns go out there and beat him. So I'm really trying to hammer that point home to all of you that might think that I might be saying it's okay for Roman Reigns to win. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the way the whole situation, the whole feud, when the whole thing is over, I want Braun Strowman to come out of it stronger than he went in. And I don't care how they get there. I don't care what road they take. I don't care which match he wins or which match he loses, as long as we get that result at the end of the program. That's it. So, that's really my opinion on that. But I'll get into my official prediction here later on, and I'm going to have to give it some thought as to who I'm actually going to predict here by the time I get to the end of this commentary. So I'll think about it a little bit while I'm talking here, and we'll discuss a little bit more about this when we talk about the Payback predictions. As far as what else we saw on Raw, the main event, I believe, was Jericho and Ambrose, right? Taking on The Miz and a mystery partner. This match was set up earlier on in the night. I think it might have been the opening segment, where it was almost like a combination of all 3 talk shows at once. It was a highlight reel with The Miz and Maurice being the guests, I believe. They come out there, and The Miz starts changing the entire show into Miz TV right in front of Jericho, and then Ambrose comes out there and changes Miz TV into the Ambrose Asylum. So you basically had all 3 talk shows going on at once. We haven't seen that since WrestleMania 5 when the Brother Love show merged with Piper's Pit. So that was actually kind of cool to see, and it was funny because Dean Ambrose, we remember, had an issue with Chris Jericho, maybe a year or so ago, and he tore up Chris Jericho's lit up jacket or whatever, and Ambrose gives him a brand new one. Just looked like a blazer or a sports coat with like Christmas lights taped to it or whatever. Really funny, but Jericho liked it. He goes, that's a pretty snazzy fucking jacket right there. And it even led to Dean Ambrose being taken off the list. I think he's the first guy to be taken off the list. Later on, they did the backstage deal where he approaches Jericho and he goes, look, we're tag team partners tonight, and I think even though we've had our differences in the past, there's one big favor I need to ask of you. You've got to take me off the list. And Jericho, hesitant at first, finally agrees. And he goes, do you know what happens to people that give me a brand new jacket? You just unmade the list. And he scratches him off. Hilarious segment. I loved that. The Miz is bragging backstage to Kurt Angle that he found a tag team partner. As a matter of fact, his tag team partner found him. But when it came time for the match, his partner didn't show up. So it was essentially a handicap match. Jericho and Ambrose just beating the piss out of the Miz for 10 minutes, which was pretty funny. And then Ambrose and the Miz are brawling up on the stage. They wound up on the announce table. And Ambrose is about to deliver some move to the Miz when the lights go out. And they come back on. Bray Wyatt is standing on the announce table with Dean Ambrose. Attacks him, knocks him off, ends up giving him a Sister Abigail into the LED screen or whatever. It didn't look that great. And then he comes down to the ring and gets in there and attacks Jericho, hits him with the Sister Abigail, and then when the Miz is celebrating with him, he hits the Miz with one as well. So I don't even know what the outcome of the match was. I never saw a pinfall, so this must have been a no contest or something like that. But, it wasn't the best main event. It was good to see Wyatt show up on Raw. I hope he's a big part of Raw. And of course, he's got this House of Horrors match at Payback with Randy Orton, which I'll talk about here in just a little bit. But I guess they had him on Raw just to establish himself because he's got a big match coming up at Payback, and we've been seeing him as a SmackDown guy for the past several months. So there was a whole lot of SmackDown going on in that main event. Dean Ambrose, The Miz, and Bray Wyatt all came over from SmackDown, and Jericho was the only one in this match that was originally a Raw guy to begin with. So a lot of SmackDown guys are still interacting with each other on Raw, which is weird. I thought they would break off and do shit with other people, but who knows? Hopefully that will come after Payback. Things seem to be a little bit disorganized right now, and that main event didn't make a whole lot of sense, but I didn't care. It was what it was, and I'm not going to complain too bad. I got better things to do. We also saw Matt Hardy beat Sheamus in a one-on-one match. Now, Jeff Hardy beat Cesaro last week on Raw, so the Hardy Boys have been dominating since their return, and there was some pushing and shoving going on the outside of the ring between Jeff Hardy and Cesaro. Some tempers flared up. Finally, Sheamus, of all people, was the voice of reason here, calmed everybody down, and all four guys shook hands after the match. Now, this makes me think, because of the Hardys and what they have done in the past couple of weeks by beating Sheamus and Cesaro. Sheamus and Cesaro are probably my favorite tag team in the WWE. I've said that before. A lot of you guys might be surprised about that, but I really like the team. I hate Sheamus as a singles wrestler, but as a team with Cesaro, I've liked their evolution since their Best of 7 series. I've always liked this duo for some reason, and I just have an attraction to them. I like them as a team. So I'm actually hoping that they win the tag team belts at Payback, because we have heard the rumors of WWE working something out with TNA to use the Broken characters. Matt is still referring to himself as Broken on his Twitter account, and after he beat Sheamus, he says wonderful to the crowd, and he's still got that funny ass grin on his face. So they're teasing it. They're teasing that Matt could easily become Broken at any time. So, maybe with the handshake at the end, maybe that's some sort of a tease that Sheamus and Cesaro, maybe they go heel. Maybe they beat the shit out of the Hardys at Payback and win the tag team titles, causing Matt to become Broken. And then him and Jeff fall back into those characters and start beginning that whole thing. And at that point, you really don't need a title belt anyway. That shit is so over. The last thing those two guys need are a championship belt. So they really don't need to be tag team champions if they're going to be doing the Broken gimmicks. So put them on Sheamus and Cesaro. Maybe, have them go heel, or maybe have them be, I don't know. Are they even heel? I don't know if one's a heel, one's a face. I don't know what the fuck's going on there, but maybe if they have a little bit more of an edge to them, or maybe they lose to the Hardy Boys and they snap and they go nuts and then demand a rematch the next night on Raw and win the belts there. I don't know. But if WWE is going to use the Broken characters, they don't need the belts. So you might as well give the belts to Sheamus and Cesaro, who is a team that I very much enjoy. So that's kind of what I'm hoping they're doing. And plus, with the story of WWE possibly contacting TNA, this is not something that they're going to drag out. The Hardy Boys, they're older. They could get injured at any moment here in all these matches they're having. If WWE wants to capitalize on this Broken Matt and Broken Jeff character, they don't need to drag their feet. They need to get this shit done with TNA. So I'm sure they worked it out. I've mentioned it before. WWE even called them up, that's what they needed to do. Call those idiots up, give them a chunk of money, and say, let us use these gimmicks. There's no, something can be worked out. It's not like TNA is going to refuse, especially if WWE throws some money at them to shut them up. They'll gladly sell out, basically, and let WWE use these characters. So I have a feeling a deal has already been worked out. This shouldn't be something that needs to be negotiated over for months or weeks at a time. This should be a simple phone call and say, look, idiots, what do you need? Some money? Here you go. Let us cut you a check and move on. I'm sure this deal was worked out in a matter of hours, not a matter of days or weeks. So I have a feeling an agreement is probably already in place between these two companies, and now WWE just needs to figure out a way how to launch the Broken Matt and Broken Jeff gimmicks in the WWE. So if I had to guess, that's something I would be looking for here in the next couple of weeks on WWE TV. But I'll give my official prediction on that match here in just a little bit. We had a 6-man tag on Raw, which was also pretty interesting, and there was some news coming out of that match as well. Seth Rollins teamed up with Cass and Finn Balor. It was supposed to be Cass and Enzo. He was attacked on the outside of the ring by the Club before the match. Couldn't compete in the match. Kurt Angle comes out and announces their new tag team partner, which was Finn Balor, which was a huge upgrade, according to Corey Graves, and I couldn't agree with him more. And they did defeat Samoa Joe and Gallows and Anderson, and they got the victory with Seth Rollins debuting his new finisher. Now, a lot of people were screaming that he's stolen this. It appears to be some sort of a hybrid between Okada's Rainmaker and Kenny Omega's V-Trigger. I'm not sure how I feel about his finisher. I thought it looked okay. If you ask me, anything other than the pedigree is good. And I liked that it appeared that that was the end of the pedigree, because if you saw, Seth Rollins began the sequence with, I think it was Anderson in the pedigree, and then he let go and then hit him with his new finisher. So basically it was Seth Rollins' way of saying, hey guys, I got a new finisher now. And I could not be happier. I was saying for months that when his feud with Triple H comes to an end, so should his use of the pedigree. That move makes no sense for him. He's so much more athletic. I loved the curb stomp. I wish WWE would just let him use that. So maybe this new finisher will grow on me. Hopefully it'll grow on all of us. I automatically think that it's better than the pedigree. Anything is better than the pedigree. So the fact that he's created this fusion of the two Japan moves, I think is fine. You know, guys use bits and pieces of moves all the time. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't think he's going to get any heat for it. And he was in the ring with a whole bunch of Japan guys to begin with. It was probably Balor, Gallows, or Anderson that gave him the idea to use that move in the first fucking place. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. And hopefully the move will get better and it'll become something that we enjoy seeing him do. And like I said, anything is better than the pedigree. But right now, it has sparked a little bit of controversy on social media about his use of this move and all of that. But I don't care. If the pedigree's gone, good Mike Works happy. Probably the promo of the night on Monday Night Raw had to go to Alexa Bliss. Who would disagree with me on that? Wow, that was great shit. I mean, she's so fucking funny sometimes. And I guess Payback is going to be in Bayley's hometown. And when Alexa Bliss heard that, she goes, oh, wait a minute. It's going to be in your hometown? Holy shit. Not only do I get to beat you for the women's title, but I get to beat your ass in front of your dad. Your dad's probably going to be there, right? And just everything she said just had me laughing. She's very good on the mic. And she's only going to get better. So promo of the night on Raw easily goes to Alexa Bliss. Sasha Banks came out and made an appearance as well, which led to a match between Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks, which Sasha won via countout when Alexa just retreated. She just left and walked out of the match. And we've still been speculating on that Sasha Banks heel turn. When and if that is going to happen. And I think that it will. And I think Payback might be a good place for that. I mean, think about it. If Bayley really is in her hometown and her father is there and all of that, that would be a great place for her to lose the belt with some help from Sasha Banks. Maybe Sasha turns on Bayley in the match or does a run-in or helps Alexa or whatever, and Alexa wins the title in front of Bayley's hometown, in front of her family, and then Sasha kicks her ass after the fact. That might not be so bad. I don't know if that necessarily means there will be an alliance between Alexa and Sasha. I doubt it. They just fought each other on Raw. Although if you noticed, after the match, Bayley came out there to confront Alexa and she ran away from her and then she turned her back and Alexa hit her from behind. And Sasha was all the way in the ring and then ran up to tend to Bayley after the fact. So, you know, maybe that was a little bit of a tease that her and Alexa are in cahoots and set up Bayley. I don't know. And maybe the big turn is coming at Payback. But if they're going to have Bayley lose in front of her family, it shouldn't be a clean loss. You should have a heel turn or you should have some sort of a surprise. And if they're going to finally turn Sasha Banks heel, seems like they're taking forever to do it, this would probably be the best place for it to happen. So other than that, on Raw, we really had nothing going on. Apollo Crews beat Kurt Hawkins. Titus O'Neil came out to congratulate Crews and take a selfie with him, and I guess he's trying to recruit him to the Titus brand or whatever. So that whole thing is stupid. Jack Gallagher and Austin Aries beat TJ Perkins and Neville in a tag team match. And of course, Neville is defending against Aries this Sunday at Payback as well. Dana Brooke got a rare victory defeating Alicia Fox. Emma came down to the ring and gave her this like really awkward hug. So it looks like they might be trying to pick up where they left off with her when they first brought Dana in and then Emma got injured or whatever happened there. So maybe they're trying to do something between the two of them. But I don't want Emma to get lost in the shuffle here. I'm already nervous about that. She's barely an influence on the show at all. We hardly see her. She's been in tag matches or random appearances here or there. I want to see her in the title mix. So hopefully she will get there at some point and she won't be on Dana Brooke and Alicia Fox level for too long. They, of course, gave us a big giant Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman video package as well. And they talked a little bit about the House of Horrors match at Payback between Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. And that was pretty much all I saw on Monday Night Raw. Oh yeah, there was another Marine segment or whatever that went on backstage with The Miz. I didn't even know that Heath Slater and Curtis Axel were in this movie. And I'm thrilled because I was actually nervous for Curtis Axel. I've been sitting here waiting just to hear about his release one day. It seems like WWE does nothing with him. He's never on TV. He never does shit. And I didn't even know he was going to be in this movie. So the fact that he is makes me happy that it probably is going to keep him employed for a little while during the promotion of this movie, and maybe he can even get back on TV and get some sort of a push someday in the future stemming from his appearance in this movie, and he won't be released at all because I love Kurt Hennig and I want his kid to do well. So that pretty much is your Monday Night Raw in a nutshell. Like I said, wasn't the best Monday Night Raw we've seen in recent weeks. Not a very good go-home pay-per-view show. The last couple of weeks of Raw, I think, were much better. Judging from the feedback I saw on Twitter, it was pretty overwhelmingly negative, where the past couple of weeks have been relatively positive. So it wasn't the best Raw, but whatevs. Hopefully we can bounce back and have a good one next week. Why don't we go ahead and predict Payback now before I get into SmackDown, since this is a Raw pay-per-view. The kickoff match is going to be an exciting encounter, a match that we've been dying to see for so long, a dream match to so many fans. Once in a lifetime, Enzo and Cass versus Gallows and Anderson. Fuck me. Like I give a shit who wins this match. How many times must we see these guys wrestle? And I have to predict a winner here? Well, based on the fact that Enzo got his ass kicked on Raw, you would think that they might get some revenge and Enzo and Cass will win this match. So that's who I'm inclined to pick, even though I don't want it to happen. I guess I'm going to pick Enzo and Cass, but if it was up to me, I'd be picking the club. So don't be mad at me. Neville is defending his cruiserweight title against Austin Aries. You know, this is a match that I'm completely torn on. On one hand, I think WWE might want to put the cruiserweight title on Austin Aries. They seem to like him. He's awesome on the mic. He's a great overall character, but I've wanted to see Neville hold on to that belt ever since he won it. I told you guys I would have no problem with him hanging on to it until SummerSlam. I think he's bringing some credibility and some longevity to that title reign. And I also think we need to see some title changes on the show since we don't have a world title match going on. So I'm inclined to pick Austin Aries to finally dethrone Neville. I mean, Austin lost to him at WrestleMania, so you would think this might be the time to maybe put the belt on him. Maybe there's some interference. I mean, TJ Perkins has been involved lately with Neville and all of that, so I'm really tempted to pick Austin Aries here, but I'm also tempted to pick two other title changes here, and I don't know if we're going to have three. So, oh gosh, I think I'm going to regret this, but I'm going to pick Neville to retain and continue his run as Cruiserweight Champion. By hook or by crook, I think Neville will come out of this match on top. The Hardy Boys defending their tag team championships against Cesaro and Sheamus. I just talked about this whole scenario just a little bit ago, and I think I'm going to pick Cesaro and Sheamus to win this match. And I think that they will win the titles, and that will eventually lead to Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy becoming broken, because I have a feeling WWE has worked out all the shit with TNA, and they can probably start using these broken characters whenever they want. But first, I think they have to have this title match with Cesaro and Sheamus, and maybe Cesaro and Sheamus, currently my favorite tag team in the WWE, will get the gold back, and the Hardys can move on to their broken brilliance in the WWE. So I'm going to pick Cesaro and Sheamus. Alexa Bliss versus Bayley. I just mentioned this as well. I think I'm going to predict it. I think we see the Sasha Banks heel turn. Alexa Bliss can win the belt, somehow survive a rematch with Bayley the next night on Raw, and Bayley and Sasha can go on and work their program, and Alexa can have a new feud with somebody else for the title. So that's the direction I think they might be going. So I'm going to predict Alexa Bliss to win the Raw Women's title at Payback. Seth Rollins versus Samoa Joe. This is another tough one. I think it could go either way here as well. Samoa Joe has not really looked that weak in the WWE since coming in. He did put Seth Rollins on the shelf. He did injure him. Seth Rollins had a big victory against Triple H at WrestleMania. He is on a roll just like Samoa Joe is, and Seth Rollins is due to get some revenge on him from that initial injury. He's got a new finisher to debut, so if he's got a new finisher, I don't think WWE wants guys kicking out of this thing right away. I'm sure in the future we're going to see people kick out of it left and right, but if he hits Samoa Joe with it more than once and he kicks out, then what good is that fucking finisher? So, you know, I think Triple H is done, so I don't think Triple H will make an appearance in this match. Maybe Kevin Owens will if his match with Chris Jericho takes place prior to this, so it's very possible that Samoa Joe has some help. This is literally an eeny, meeny, miny, mo type of deal here, but I think I'm going to predict Seth Rollins to win this match. Kevin Owens versus Chris Jericho. This one's relatively easy to predict. I don't see Jericho winning the U.S. title and going to SmackDown. I see Kevin Owens retaining and Jericho going off to tour with Fozzy or whatever the hell he's going to do this summer. And I think Jericho probably has one more pay-per-view maybe left in him before he takes off, or maybe not. This just might be the end of it with Kevin Owens at Payback. Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt, the House of Horrors match. Still a lot of questions surrounding this match. From what you guys are telling me, this is not for the title. So I really hope I'm not wrong about that. I think this is a non-title match. It's just the blow off of this feud. And it's very anticlimactic because the long build that we saw with Randy Orton feuding with Bray Wyatt at first, then joining the Wyatt family, and the whole thing goes all the way until WrestleMania. And now when you're about to have this blow off, it doesn't feel like it's living up to all of the build. And now you got these guys on separate shows even. So this is going to be their final encounter. I'm guessing this is going to be a pre-tape type of deal. They're probably going to film this thing on location or off-site somewhere. Maybe it's some weird-ass house because it's a House of Horrors match, right? So maybe part of it's filmed in the house and then the rest of it's in the ring. Remember the backlot brawl at WrestleMania 12 between Piper and Goldust? You know, they pre-taped all that shit behind the scenes in the alley, and then they finished it off in the ring. So maybe it's something like that. But at the end of the day, I think Bray Wyatt needs to get the victory here. If the match is not for the title, it wouldn't make any sense for Randy Orton to win. Randy Orton can still lose this thing because it's a crazy-ass match, much like Braun Strowman being in a dumpster match. You know, sometimes you can lose without looking that bad. I mean, Braun Strowman just landed feet first in the dumpster. It's not like he was pinned. Maybe Bray Wyatt can find some sort of way to defeat Randy Orton in this thing, or pull a whole bunch of rabbits out of his hat and hit Randy Orton with all sorts of surprises, maybe even a Sister Abigail run-in. Don't forget, Sister Abigail was a big part of this feud. Randy Orton burned down the compound that she was buried in and then stabbed her grave with the symbol and all this shit. So maybe she's resurrected. Maybe Sister Abigail comes back from the dead and makes an appearance in this match, scaring the shitballs out of Randy Orton and allowing Bray Wyatt to get the victory somehow. So I think Randy Orton needs to lose here so Bray Wyatt can get some momentum going over to the Raw brand. And Randy Orton's still the WWE champion, so it's really not going to harm him any. And I would assume that he's going to defeat Jinder Mahal at Backlash in a couple of weeks on the SmackDown brand. So to me, a Bray Wyatt victory here makes the most sense. How they do it, I have no fucking idea. No clue. I don't even know what to expect in this match. But I think Bray Wyatt is going to have to pull off a lot of magic tricks, you know, a lot of smoke and mirrors. And like I said, maybe a Sister Abigail or another Wyatt family member interfering in this thing or something. Maybe even the Broken Hardys. I don't know. I mean, who knows what sort of direction they could go in here. But I think at the end of the day, you got to see Bray Wyatt get his hand raised in this. Otherwise, it doesn't do him any good for his status on the Raw brand if he loses his very first pay-per-view match and Randy Orton just, you know, beats him at his own game. It just doesn't seem like something that they would want to do with a character like this. So Bray Wyatt needs to win this match, and that's who I'm predicting. Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns. Now, this is probably going to be the main event, I would assume. So I talked about this in detail earlier on. I talked about all of the different things that they could possibly do, but whatever they do at the end of this program, whether it ends at Payback or at Extreme Rules or maybe in July, whenever this thing ends, Strowman needs to come out of it as a bigger monster than he went in. So if they do have Roman Reigns win here, they need to figure out a way to where it doesn't harm Braun Strowman that much. So if this is this a straight up match? What's the deal here? Is this a no holds barred or no disqualification? Probably not. So the big stipulation match will probably come at the next pay-per-view. So maybe this is something they can hold off until Extreme Rules. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if maybe Roman Reigns is the one that has a little bit of help. Don't forget who's on Raw now with him. A couple of his former friends. One architect and one lunatic. And they could show up and help him out in this feud with Braun Strowman, then that might be something that the fans actually accept. They might not freak out if they see a Shield reunion, if it means beating Braun Strowman. What if Ambrose and Rollins show up and the three of them triple powerbombed Braun Strowman straight to hell in a typical Shield move? You know, they could do something to him to where Roman Reigns is able to defeat him. And, you know, given Braun Strowman's, you know, personality and stuff, and I know he's this big crazy monster and it's really hard to envision him as anything other than a heel, but I would not rule out a face turn for Braun Strowman in the future one day. I mean, I think the fans like him. I think the fans could get used to cheering him. If they made him a big badass Brock Lesnar babyface type, I mean, Brock's been a face a couple of times. It's worked out fine. As long as they don't try to make him funny or happy or smiling or John Cena and put a goddamn purple shirt on him or anything and just keep him the way he is, but keep him a babyface, you know, I think that could work out. Maybe that could lead to a double turn. Maybe Braun Strowman wins at Payback and then Roman Reigns gets a rematch at the next pay-per-view and the Shield comes out and helps him defeat Braun Strowman and you see a double turn type of thing where the Shield is back to being a heel and Braun Strowman is now the babyface in a 3-on-1 uphill battle. That could work too. I know that's a little bit far-fetched and a little bit out there, but at least it would be a way to where both guys could stay in the positions that WWE wants them in. Because I think that's one thing the fans have to remember here. It's really easy to sit here and say, oh, this is an easy match. WWE needs to have Braun Strowman completely destroy Roman Reigns and pin him 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. Here's a newsflash. That ain't gonna happen. The best you can hope for is that if Roman Reigns wins, that Braun Strowman is not buried, and vice versa. Because the WWE doesn't want to completely kill their guy either, who just retired The Undertaker at WrestleMania. So there's got to be a balance there, and you got to write this thing and book this thing in a way to where neither guy comes out of this thing any worse for the wear. And that's not very easy to do. So WWE, like I said, I have no clue what they're going to do here, and I really don't care as long as Braun Strowman doesn't lose any steam, and as long as Braun Strowman can get some world title shots this year. I definitely think he's worthy of that. I definitely think he's a big enough character for that. The way the WWE has been booking him and pushing him, especially in the past 3 or 4 weeks, it pretty much proves that the WWE does want to have plans for this guy. I mentioned earlier, it would make no sense to book him the way you've booked him since WrestleMania, with him killing everybody, murdering people, including cars and ambulances, and then just have him lose 1, 2, 3 clean in the middle of the ring to Roman Reigns at Payback. That would be fucking retarded. So to me, I'm trying to look at this thing logically and trying to understand that yes, Roman Reigns isn't going to get buried and destroyed or anything, but neither should Braun Strowman. So whatever the WWE does, it just better not suck. But for Payback, I think I'm going to pick, I think I'm going to pick Roman Reigns with some help. Now, I'm not saying Shield help. He might figure something else out. Don't forget, Braun Strowman used an ambulance on him, rolled him off a ramp on a stretcher. Maybe Roman Reigns brings one of those props, one of those things that Braun Strowman was using on other guys. Maybe he brings that into the match somehow. Maybe he pins Braun Strowman underneath a dumpster and pins him 1, 2, 3. Maybe he gets creative in however he beats Braun Strowman. Maybe it takes a spear off the top of an ambulance. Maybe there's an ambulance parked out back and they're brawling into the backstage area and he spears him off of the ambulance onto the fucking concrete floor and splatters his brains everywhere. I don't know. Whatever Roman does, he's going to have to use everything he can think of to be able to beat this guy. And if he does, as long as they have a rematch and as long as it doesn't bury Braun Strowman, I'm not going to freak out too badly about it. But if it's a carbon copy of Fastlane and Roman Reigns just beats him 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring, I am not going to be a happy camper. And I'm going to let the WWE know about it in my Payback results and reaction video on Sunday night. So I just don't want to see that. I don't care what we see. I don't even care who wins. I don't even care who loses. The only thing I don't want to see is Strowman getting pinned 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. Any other outcome I can probably live with except for that one. If Braun Strowman must lose, fine. Just keep him strong. That's all I ask. So anyway, there you go with my Payback predictions. Let's just recap here in case anybody got lost or you're scoring at home. I've got Enzo and Cass defeating Gallows and Anderson. I've got Neville retaining the Cruiserweight title. I've got Sheamus and Cesaro winning the tag team titles from the Hardy Boys. I've got Alexa Bliss winning the Raw Women's title from Bayley. I've got Seth Rollins defeating Samoa Joe. Kevin Owens retaining the U.S. title against Chris Jericho. Bray Wyatt defeating Randy Orton in a House of Horrors match. And Roman Reigns defeating Braun Strowman in another crazy match on this pay-per-view. So between Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton, I want to see the WWE get creative here and have some results in these matches that doesn't result in the destruction or de-push or stalling of anybody's character. If they can do that, you're going to get no complaints from me. So anyway, why don't we move on to SmackDown now, and then I'll talk about some other news and I'll get out of here. SmackDown was pretty interesting this week. I don't know if I would necessarily say I liked it better than Raw. Neither one of the two shows really dazzled me this week, but maybe, just maybe, I liked SmackDown a tiny bit more. We've been seeing some new guys get some opportunities, and we even saw a babyface turn, essentially, on this past week's show. So let me kind of blow through what we saw here. Show opened up with Renee Young conducting an interview with Shinsuke Nakamura, and he came out to the music and the whole deal, and he's interrupted by Dolph Ziggler, who makes fun of him and calls him Michael Jackson, which was a pretty funny little shtick there. You know Michael's got to be one of Nakamura's influences with the jacket and everything, and I don't know, does he wear a glove too? I'm not sure. He might. So I found all of that a little bit amusing, and then Dolph Ziggler winds up attacking Nakamura. Nakamura turns the tables, fights back, and Dolph Ziggler retreats. So clearly Dolph Ziggler is going to be the first guy to be put in front of Nakamura on his ascent to the top of the SmackDown roster. I have no doubt that whenever these guys face, the match should be pretty good, and Nakamura is going to demolish him. I don't even think they need to wait until Backlash to have this match. They can probably just do it on SmackDown and then maybe do the blow-off at Backlash. Like, have it be that quick, and by the time they get to the next pay-per-view, hopefully Nakamura can move on to somebody else. But I'm fine with them doing this and them taking some baby steps with him, having him work with Dolph first. There's no reason to bring him right up and put him right in the main event title picture, or have him work with AJ right away, or Randy Orton right away. You know, give us some time, build to that. That way you don't blow your load all in one, 2 months here, and then you got nothing else to do with the guy from here on out. So, take it slow and get Nakamura up to where you want him to be when you're ready, and there's no reason to rush it. So really no complaints here on this tiny little Dolph Ziggler and Nakamura feud. I don't expect it to last very long. We had AJ Styles taking on Baron Corbin again. Now, these guys have wrestled a lot in the past few weeks. AJ has not been able to pin him yet. However, he has been winning the matches in various ways. Kevin Owens is out there sporting even a different look now. First, he shaved the beard a little bit down. Now he's even almost shaved or crew cutted his head, and he's completely clean shaven, and he's out there wearing the suit, so he's looking a little bit different. He's on commentary. AJ is finally able to score a pinfall victory over Corbin. I think Corbin was going for a powerbomb, and AJ countered it and rolled him up for the 1-2-3, and Owens jumps in the ring and starts attacking AJ, because we do know that AJ won a number one contenders match a couple of weeks ago for the United States title, so AJ and Kevin Owens are going to be working Backlash together, assuming Kevin Owens survives Payback against Chris Jericho, which we know that he will. That ending is pretty much given away already. Owens jumps in the ring after the match and starts attacking AJ, and then Baron Corbin joins in, and they start double teaming him, and he's saved by Sami Zayn. So I guess AJ Styles is a babyface now. I don't know really when that turn officially happened, but I'm not going to complain. AJ being a babyface, fine with me. He's been in the WWE now close to a year and a half, and he's been a heel all that time, so change it up. Why not? The fans love him, I love him, and I have no problem cheering him, and he's already well-liked and well-respected, so a babyface turn at this point seems natural and logical. And now he's going to be in the U.S. title picture, and he's going to be working with Kevin Owens at Backlash, and hopefully AJ will take that title from him and start building his WWE legacy and resume, and I think that's what the WWE wants to do here. I'm disappointed that AJ currently is not in the world title picture, but they're giving this opportunity to Jinder right now for various reasons, so, just putting AJ on the back burner and have him still compete for a championship is not the worst thing in the world. Guys like John Cena and Roman Reigns have held that U.S. title in the last year or two, so that title's not a joke of a title. It actually does mean something in the company, and for AJ to wear that next, I've got no problem with it, and hopefully he can be a part of the world title picture again here in the future, and we've got SummerSlam on the horizon. Who knows what they have planned for him, so I don't think AJ's days of being a contender for the world title are necessarily over. I think this is just something for him to do in the meantime, which I have no problem with. So him and Kevin Owens should have a nice little program that should stretch through the majority of the summer, you would think, because once they start working together at Backlash, they'll work again in June, and they'll probably work again in July. And then if they haven't wrapped up business by SummerSlam could either be your blow-off, or it could be the beginning of a new feud for both of them. So who knows? We had Randy Orton taking on Eric Rowan in a no disqualification match. Rowan actually put up a fight in this thing. I mean, this guy is pretty much a jobber, but he gave Orton kind of a run for his money there. But eventually, Orton, of course, got the victory there. He got on the mic to cut a promo on Bray Wyatt, who he faces this Sunday in the House of Horrors match, of course. And he's then interrupted by Jinder Mahal, who comes out there, gets in Randy Orton's face. They start fighting. Randy Orton starts kicking his ass. And then the Bollywood boys interfere again, or the Singh brothers, as they're called. So it's looking like Jinder Mahal is going to form some sort of a stable here with some other guys from his home country. I don't know. And there's even been rumors of them adding one or two other people to this. So I still, at this point, don't expect him to win the WWE title. Although he could. He stole the WWE title, which was interesting. After the three of them got done beating the crap out of Randy Orton, he took the title and left, and they drove away in a big, giant Hummer limousine with Jinder sticking out of the sunroof holding up the title. So he has legit stolen the WWE title from Randy Orton. They might just be doing this so Randy doesn't have to carry the title into Payback. I mean, it's a Raw pay-per-view, so maybe they just don't want the WWE title on that pay-per-view at all. And plus, since this House of Horrors match is going to be kind of an off-site type of thing, I think they're going to tape part of it off-site, and then the rest of it's going to take place in the ring or something like that. Randy Orton really has no reason to bring the title with him if it's not a title match. And he's going into this unknown match, in Bray Wyatt's neighborhood or Bray Wyatt's house. And he has to enter this very strange environment. He doesn't need to be carrying a championship belt around him. So this might just be a way for them to not have Randy Orton physically bring the title to Payback. I'm sure next week on SmackDown or sometime before Backlash, he'll beat the hell out of Jinder and get the belt back. Or maybe not. Maybe Jinder just holds on to it until Backlash. And then Randy Orton technically wins it back or takes it back from him once he defeats Jinder. I don't know. But I've been getting a lot of mixed opinions on Jinder Mahal from all of you. Some people like his opportunity and think that it's a good idea, and some people think that it doesn't make any sense at all. And I can see both sides of it. I'm happy that Jinder's getting an opportunity, but I didn't like the way WWE just overnight made the guy a contender. There was no build. There was no slow tease to this. Like maybe he wins a couple of matches on Raw or something. I mean, he just lost. Right before he got drafted, he got pinned by Finn Balor clean in a match that he even fucked up and botched and nailed Finn Balor and gave him a fucking concussion. So Jinder has been doing absolutely nothing. It would be one thing if he started getting a few small victories on Raw, maybe beating guys like Kurt Hawkins or some other jobbers. And you don't really notice that he's started to win, but he's just doing a little bit more than being a jobber. And then if they slowly built to that and then they threw him into a number one contender match and then he won it, to me that would be a little bit better than him just one day being a jobber and the next day being the number one contender for the WWE title. So I think they went a little fast, and I think they should have had a little bit more build to Jinder moving up the roster a little bit rather than just doing it overnight. But even despite all of that lack of logic, I still don't really have a problem with Jinder getting an opportunity because that's what SmackDown has been trying to build their brand on, guys getting opportunities, and Jinder wasn't getting one on Raw, and now just like that, he's the number one contender for Randy Orton's title on SmackDown, and if he impresses WWE officials at Backlash, this is a guy that they might go with. We've talked about the WWE's desire to expand more into India. A lot of people live in India, something like over 1 billion people. So it's an enormous market over there, and I can attest to that just in my little YouTube channel. I have a lot of listeners from India, so that's a great market for them to be in if they want to push Jinder, as this country's hero or whatever and build off of that as a way to help their expansion, then fine, whatever. At least somebody's getting an opportunity. Jinder's not the worst worker in the world. Nobody had a problem with him when he was in 3MB. If anything, everybody was screaming for him to get more opportunities. So here, now that he has one, it's really tough to complain. It's just how they got there that bothers me a little bit. Plus, Jinder looks great. He's gotten himself in amazing shape. The guy's obviously worked hard to get it, and he looks good. And I like his whole character look. He does look very scary, and he's pretty good on the mic. He speaks 2 languages. This is kind of a character that WWE tried to do with Tiger Ali Singh years ago, maybe around 20 years ago now when they signed him. They were trying to do a similar thing. Some of you might remember on Monday Night Raw or Sunday Night Heat, he would come out there in a suit and, kind of be, a hybrid of $1 Million Man, JBL, Alberto Del Rio type. That's what they tried to do with him, and it looks like that's what they're trying to do with Jinder Mahal right now. This is a character that we've seen many times. And we'll have to see if this one gets over as well as JBL or Alberto Del Rio or anybody else similar to this. But right now, I'm not hating what I'm seeing from Jinder. If he ends up having a kick-ass match with Randy Orton at Backlash and comes up on the losing end and this feud gets over and it keeps going beyond that, then maybe the next pay-per-view or the one after that, put the belt on Jinder. Fuck it. Why not? Putting the belt on Jinder now can't be any worse than putting the title on The Miz or Sheamus back in 2010, 2011. It can't be any worse than that, right? If it doesn't work, then hell, take the belt off of him in 2 months. I think it's at least worth a try at this point. Speaking of jobbers getting opportunities, how about Breezango? They actually won a Beat the Clock challenge by beating the Ascension. There was a match earlier on in the night with American Alpha defeating the Colognes in 5-6 minutes or whatever, and then Breezango beat the clock. They won their match in like 3 minutes or something, and they're now the new number one contenders for the WWE SmackDown Tag Team Championship. So that's kind of cool. I mean, that tag team is extremely funny. I mean, Tyler Breeze and Fandango have been working hard on the roster. They're just complete jobbers, and their tag team is fucking retarded, but they're getting a little bit more over with the Fashion Police gimmick, and they're both really funny. I liked both of their work in the Southpaw Regional Wrestling skits that they did on YouTube. They were both fantastic in that. They've got a lot of character. They've got a lot of personality. Both of them are pretty damn decent in the ring. And if they gave this team a push, I'm fine with that. They're just such a joke. I mean, they're just so comedy and so ridiculous and so over the top. It's hard to take them seriously. But if they can find a way to balance the two, have a little bit of comedy and be funny and be a goofy gimmick, but at the same time be able to be able to fight and be taken seriously at times as well, then I have no problem with Breezango winning the tag team titles. But I think they're going to face the Usos at Backlash is what they're saying. So, Jinder's getting a title opportunity, Breezango's getting a title opportunity, and that's pretty crazy. So Backlash might surprise us in a few weeks, and who knows, maybe SmackDown can make themselves some new stars. But don't really know what to make about Breezango at this point. I'm a huge fan of the Usos. I have no interest in seeing them lose the tag team titles right now. They've been off TV as well for the past couple of weeks, dealing with the death of their family member, of course. Rosie passed away last week, so they'll probably be back on TV next week, I would assume. And they can start building their goofy-ass match with the Fashion Police at Backlash. Moving on to the main event now, which was also pretty interesting. Charlotte, of course, was challenging for the SmackDown Women's Championship, taking on Naomi for the title, and Charlotte's had some run-ins in recent weeks backstage with a lot of other members of the women's roster on SmackDown. They're all pissed off, mad, and jealous that she got this opportunity too quick, and Charlotte's stance on it is that she's a former 4-time Raw Women's Champion. She dominated over there, and the Queen needs a new kingdom to rule over, and SmackDown is that new kingdom, and if it was up to her, she would have gotten the title shot even quicker than this. So they're putting her in the match right away. That was one of my complaints in my last commentary, that it seemed like Alexa Bliss on Raw and Charlotte on SmackDown were getting their title opportunities a little bit too fast for me. I don't mind them working for the title. I just think they should have waited at least a month or something like that. But they gave both girls shots basically as soon as they walked in the door. And they've been teasing all of this dissension on SmackDown with the female heels, with Natty and Carmella, and now Tamina is involved. And so Charlotte and Naomi go out there and have their match. They're doing a pretty good job, a hard-fought competitive match, and then Charlotte is jumped. Charlotte is jumped by Tamina, Natty, and Carmella. They beat the hell out of her. They also beat the hell out of Naomi. Naomi tries to fight back and make the save, and then in the end, you see the three girls completely lay out Charlotte and stand over her, with James Ellsworth even joining in. I mean, Charlotte got the crap beaten out of her. She had a lot of sympathy. Naomi was even in there trying to help her out. So I guess this means that Charlotte is now a babyface, and I'm torn on that. Trust me, I love Charlotte. You guys all know that I do. I have no problem cheering for her as a babyface because I already cheer for her anyway. But I think her heel skills are so amazing. I think she's one of the better female heels that we have seen in WWE in recent years, and even though you can't be a heel forever and she probably should eventually turn babyface at some point, I kind of think that this might have been a little bit too quick as well. Although, to be honest, it would be cool to think of her being a dominant heel on Monday Night Raw and then a dominant babyface on SmackDown. You talk about a well-rounded career and legacy, holy shit. So Charlotte turning babyface isn't something that I'm freaking out about too badly, but I really enjoy her as a heel. Man, she can be such a bitch. She can be so conceited, she can be so arrogant, and she can be so cocky, and she can back it up, which is what I love about her. And plus, she's the daughter of the Nature Boy, one of the most cocky, arrogant heels of all time. If her father's history is any indication of how she's going to do, I feel that Ric Flair was always a much better heel than he was a babyface. So that might be the same situation with his daughter as well, but, at the same time, they need to give her a chance to be a babyface as well. Who knows how she can do with it? Maybe she'll surprise us. Maybe she'll turn out to be somebody like Edge. I always thought of Edge as a really, really good heel. Somebody that just looked the part. He could talk the trash. He could do it better than anybody. But when he was a babyface, he was equally as good. So maybe Charlotte can be more of a female Edge than a female Ric Flair. And if that's the case, she'll probably have a very successful run on SmackDown. And now maybe she won't get the title belt so quickly because she's going to have to, have some sort of an alliance with Naomi, I would assume, if she's a babyface now. Maybe the two of them are going to take on the other three in handicap matches or something like that. Or maybe they'll even have a babyface match for the title at some point. Or maybe Naomi will drop it to a heel and then Charlotte will defeat that heel. I wouldn't be surprised at all if it turns out to be Natalya. Natalya and Charlotte had some epic battles in NXT. Natalya has really not had an opportunity in a while, so if they put the SmackDown title on her and then have Charlotte beat her for it at SummerSlam or something like that, that's something that I would be very much in favor of. Aside from that, we really didn't see anything else on SmackDown other than a Rusev interview that appeared to be from a gym or something like that. He is saying that he is not going to show up on SmackDown because, of course, we know he was drafted over there, but he hasn't appeared yet. He says he's not coming over there unless they grant him a WWE title match at Money in the Bank. So this looks to me just like a stalling tactic until he's healed up from whatever injury it is that he has. I know that he got injured a while back. I can't even remember what the injury is, but he's clearly rehabbing that and not quite ready to get back on TV yet, but he'll be there soon. So they're using this as a way to keep him off of TV. I did read, that there has been some more rumors of him having heat for him cutting his hair or whatever. I've made my thoughts known about that before a few commentaries ago. I think that's fucking ridiculous. It's not a big deal. If WWE is really mad about somebody cutting their hair, just tell them to grow it back. I'm at least happy that WWE didn't separate Lana and Rusev and kept them on the same brand, even though it looks like their characters are going to be separated, and they've been running vignettes for Lana doing some sort of a striptease type of gimmick, and I'm guessing she's going to join the women's division and actually wrestle is the only thing I can think of here. So maybe we won't see Rusev and Lana together on TV anymore, which is fine, but at least they're on the same brand. So it's nice to know that WWE is not total dicks, and they're not separating the two of them just to fuck with them. And apparently there might even be some heat on Dean Ambrose and Renee Young as well for kind of the same type of thing with them getting married, and they have sort of separated the two of them. So I never like to hear about wrestlers getting heat, especially when it's for such stupid fucking reasons. So it can't be that bad with Rusev, though, if he's coming out and saying that he wants a title match, because on Raw, he was not a title contender. He was not a world title contender, U.S. title at best, hadn't done a whole lot on that show. So if he's coming over to SmackDown and wants to be in the world title picture, that's not necessarily a D push, or that doesn't send any signals out that he's in any hot water or has any heat with the WWE either if he wants a title match. So who knows who the champion will even be at Money in the Bank? It might be Jinder Mahal. It might be Randy Orton. Maybe get a three-way between Randy, Rusev, and Jinder. That could be a way for Jinder to win the title, maybe. Maybe WWE doesn't want to have Jinder straight up defeat Randy Orton, so if he wins the title in a triple threat match by pinning Rusev, that gives the title to Jinder while allowing Randy Orton to save face, and it might be something the WWE winds up doing. Maybe that's why Rusev issued that ultimatum to Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan, who neither of which have been on the show in a couple of weeks either. I have not seen Shane McMahon or Daniel Bryan in a while. You guys can let me know the last time they've been on TV. I can't even remember. I'm fine with one of them not being there every week, but it's weird to see both of them off of TV. I know Brie is either about to have the baby or has already had the baby. So Daniel Bryan has obviously got a lot on his plate right now, and Shane McMahon's always off doing something, but you would think you need an authority figure on SmackDown at least to interrupt brawls and make impromptu tag matches and all that shit that we've seen. They're not really doing that on SmackDown right now. The show is pretty much running without an authority figure, which isn't a bad thing, but when you have two authority figures on SmackDown and neither one of them are on the show, that makes it a little bit weird. But hopefully we'll see Shane or Daniel Bryan or both of them back next week on SmackDown, and then we got to begin the build to Backlash, because next week Payback will be in the books, and we will finally know what we're looking at going into Backlash, but it already seems pretty clear to most of us. So that pretty much does it for your Raw and SmackDown reviews. I'm just going to mention a couple of other things before I get out of here, some of the wrestling news that I've been reading about this week. There has been a development in the Mauro Ranallo WWE JBL situation. WWE has come to terms on the full release of Mauro Ranallo, and they have reached some sort of a settlement with him, apparently. And Mauro wound up releasing a statement saying that he's gone for the WWE and thanked them for his opportunity, and says that, quote, it has nothing to do with JBL, end quote, which I say bull fucking shit. Dude, this has been going on for weeks, all the way since before WrestleMania. You've had weeks, literally a couple of months, to come out and tell everybody that it wasn't about JBL. Now, once you reach a settlement with WWE and you've come to terms on your release, now you're going to tell everybody that it's not about JBL? How fucking stupid do you think the wrestling fans are? WWE, I'm talking to you. I'm sure Mauro might have been forced to release this statement, or at least WWE said, hey, we'll pay you a bunch of money. Will you just not throw us or JBL under the bus? We don't need this scandal right now. And will you please say publicly that it had nothing to do with him? It was completely worked out in this deal for him to say that. It is crystal 1,000,000% obvious. Otherwise, Mauro would have came out weeks ago and said that it had nothing to do with JBL. So to me, that almost proves JBL's guilt and WWE's guilt in this, that Mauro comes out now and says that. It's a little bit annoying, and it's just frustrating because we all love Mauro Ranallo and we're all pissed off that he's not there anymore. I like Tom Phillips. I'm sure he'll do fine as the lead play-by-play guy on SmackDown, and Byron Saxton is there now, and I watched the interactions with him and JBL. They seemed okay. And JBL is, he's JBL, and he's always annoying. So the SmackDown commentary team doesn't necessarily suck without Mauro Ranallo, but I think it could be so much better with him. And I'm frustrated that we're not going to see him anymore on WWE TV. And speaking of being frustrated, there was another story going around that maybe Vince McMahon was behind the departure of Mauro Ranallo. There's some internet stories saying that Vince McMahon was growing frustrated with him. I don't know why. Vince McMahon seems he's frustrated with everybody, and he's always been a complete nightmare on the headset for every announcer to have to deal with his crazy ass screaming at you through the headphones. I'd throw my shit down and walk out right in the middle of a live Raw or SmackDown if I was an announcer in that company and Vince McMahon talked to me like that. Some of the horror stories we've heard from guys and shoot interviews and stuff over the years about what a dickbag Vince McMahon can be, it's annoying to hear that stuff, and now we're hearing that maybe Vince McMahon was the one that was really getting sick of Mauro Ranallo, but I want to call bullshit on that too. It reminds me of the Montreal Screwjob. Vince McMahon, even though it wasn't technically his idea to screw Bret Hart over, I think he was coaxed into that. As a matter of fact, I think it was Triple H that even suggested the thing to begin with. But once it happened, Vince McMahon wanted to make sure that he took the blame. And what makes me suspicious about all of this is all of this news is coming out now after the settlement. So maybe Vince McMahon is like, you know what, the fans already hate me. We don't need any more heat on JBL. Let's put a story out there. Leak out a story that it was me that wanted Mauro Ranallo gone. You know, all of this is just very fishy to me. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. There's no reason to really discuss it anymore. Mauro Ranallo's gone. He's not coming back, and it's pretty much pointless to talk about it, I guess. But, you know, WWE, how they can somehow wiggle their way out of these controversies and these scandals, I have no idea. Seems like they always land on their feet with shit like this. And this is one time where I wanted the company to come under fire. I wanted something to happen to JBL. I wanted there to be repercussions. And there still are. The fans are brutal to JBL on social media. His finger is probably bleeding because of all the people he's blocked in the last 4 weeks. Speaking of Vince McMahon, actually, I did read that they're going to be making a movie about him. It's going to be called Pandemonium. TriStar Pictures has picked up this movie. I don't think it's been cast or even started set a production date yet, but apparently it is in the works and it is going to happen. And that should be a pretty interesting movie. I don't know if WWE is going to have influence on it. You would think that they would. I mean, this is about Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon micromanages every goddamn thing in that company. You would think he would be a little bit concerned about how he is portrayed in the movie. So WWE and maybe even their production studio or something will have some sort of an influence on this movie. I don't know if they're going to use real wrestlers or how they're going to cast some of the people throughout Vince's past, the Hulk Hogans, the Andre the Giants, the Stone Colds, the Rocks, guys like that. I'm sure they'll highlight his tumultuous childhood and some of the effed up things that I think happened to Vince when he was young. And, of course, his relationship with his father and taking over for his dad and changing his name back to McMahon and then expanding the WWE nationwide and putting all the other promotions out of business. So it should be a pretty interesting movie. And when it comes out, I'll be really interested to see it. And I'm wondering who's going to play Vince McMahon. I should have thought about this more before I started recording here, but if I sat down and thought about a whole bunch of actors, I could probably think about a couple of guys that would make a good Vince McMahon. You guys can even tell me, leave it in the comments below. Who do you think in Hollywood would make a great Vince McMahon? And also Ric Flair, his fiance, apparently was involved in a serious car accident. He had tweeted yesterday for some prayers or whatever, or well wishes, because his wife, or his fiance, excuse me, was in a serious car accident. And it was a bit scary because we just saw this with Jim Ross, and he lost his wife. And not 10 minutes ago, right before I start recording this commentary, I look on Twitter and Ric Flair has provided an update, and he tweeted out a picture of his fiancée in the hospital with a neck brace on. She has no cuts, scrapes, or bruises. She looks completely fine. She probably just got a little whiplash or something like that, and doctors are keeping her overnight to be sure. And she seems no worse for the wear. A little fender bender, she's going to be fine, and that is a relief. God, I really hate to say this, because it just makes me come off sounding bad. I gave Ric Flair some shit last week for that video that was released of him being a dickhead in the bar and calling the bartender fat. He has his own side of the story and saying that the bartender insulted him first or whatever. Who knows what the fuck happened. My point was Ric Flair just needs to stop making a scene anywhere he goes. If a bartender's being a jerk to him, keep your fucking mouth shut so you don't wind up on TMZ looking like a dickhead or something. So I was already giving Ric Flair some shit for that. And this is something that I really don't want to say, but I feel like I've built this commentary on honesty, and I should be honest. And there's a big part of me that just thinks that yesterday when this happened to Ric Flair's fiance, that he was milking it just a little bit for social media. A car accident is a very scary thing. I am incredibly relieved that his fiance is going to be okay. I would have hated if anything happened to her. I would have hated it for her, for Ric Flair, for their whole family. But part of me wonders if maybe, just maybe, she was in this accident and Ric Flair wanted to get some sympathy from Twitter followers and social media followers, because a lot of people were showing him a lot of love. I commented on it too on Twitter, wishing her nothing but the best and hoping that she pulls through this and Ric Flair's doing okay, and wish them both well. And then I see the picture of her, and she looks fine. So it just made me think that Ric Flair maybe made it sound a little bit worse than it was, which I think is in poor taste because Jim Ross just lost his wife a few weeks ago in a horrific accident where she was hit while riding her scooter, and just awful. Just broke all of our hearts to hear that happen to Jim Ross. And the latest scandal with Ric Flair and that bar footage that was released, I think it was maybe a way for Ric Flair to take some of the heat off of that and try to focus the fans' attention somewhere else. And by sending his fiancée well wishes when she really wasn't that hurt to begin with. I mean, he waited a full day to update us. He said, please send prayers for my fiancée. She was in a serious car wreck. Exact words, serious car wreck. One day later, she's smiling in a hospital without a scratch on her. So it just makes me wonder a little bit. I hate to say that about Ric Flair. I'm a huge fan, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. You guys know that. I respect the shit out of that guy and his daughter. But sometimes he behaves in a way that just disgusts me a little bit. So I don't want to pass judgment, and I don't want to assume anything, and I definitely don't want to sound like an asshole. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to be honest, and I'm just a little bit suspicious about Ric Flair's social media posts regarding this car accident, and that maybe he just needed to hear some support and needed to get some sympathy from the fans to take the heat off of his latest embarrassment. So anyway, if that makes me a dick, I guess I'm a dick, and I apologize for that. So anyway, I guess I'm out of here for this week. That's about it. I'm going to get back to work here, getting some of my re-uploads done on some of those DVD reviews and stuff. Incidentally, there is other videos too. Some of you have been tweeting me and saying, hey, did you know that the Deceased Wrestlers commentary has been blocked by WWE? Another one of my big Q&As was muted. The volume was muted. The WWE went through and just fucked over a whole bunch of my older videos. So I'm going to work on those. You guys are going to get another Deceased Wrestlers commentary from me, and I've got that video right now tentatively penciled in for episode 500. That's what I'm going to shoot for, and that should be right around the end of the year, and I'm going to go balls to the wall with it. So that's my plan right now, to give you guys an updated version of that Deceased Wrestlers commentary. In the meantime, I might upload or re-upload that in its true original form, maybe on my second channel, and make it unlisted and just provide you guys with a link. That way you can go back and watch it if you want to. But I plan to redo the Deceased Wrestlers commentary this year and give you a really nice big one, 10 times better than the one I did 5 years ago back in 2012. Other than that, some of my older Q&As, I'll try to get those re-uploaded to you as well. Right now, I'm working on some DVD reviews and trying to give those to you 1 or 2 a week. I'll probably give you another one here this weekend before Payback is what I'm going to try to do, so keep a lookout for that. But I am aware of all the videos that WWE has taken down. I was thinking it wouldn't be a big deal because so many of them are so old, but I get a lot of messages about those. I'm surprised how many of you go back and watch content of mine that's 5 years old. You know, that's crazy. So a lot of you guys enjoy going back and listening to that stuff, and I apologize if any of you were inconvenienced by the latest purging of my videos. But, you know, at the end of the day, I'm almost relieved too, because now I know that's not going to happen anymore. WWE's already hit all the videos that would have issues, anything that could potentially be taken down because I used a clip or a piece of music or something like that. They've all been hit. So none of my future content will have those problems. And of course, I do have a Q&A on the schedule. I need to get you guys another Q&A. I'll be working on that, and I've got a ton of emails already. So if you guys want to send your emails to goodmicwork@gmail.com, send me your question, your name, and where you're from, and I'll try to include it. And if I can figure it out, a lot of you really enjoyed seeing me on camera during my cameo in Brian Zane's Internet Darlings. He's got a couple of videos up on his channel with me making some comments, and a lot of you guys thought it was cool to see me on camera. So maybe I can figure out a way. I've never done it before. I don't even know how to live stream. I don't know how to do any live anything on YouTube. I got to look into that and figure out how to do it. But maybe I could do a live Q&A. That might be a good idea. A lot of YouTubers do that, and they'll sit there for 2 hours and answer questions from the fans. That might actually be more fun than me giving you like a Q&A commentary. So maybe I'll look into that one day too. Currently, I don't even have a camera. I do have a webcam, but it's like 6-7 years old. It's probably shitty. I need to go down to Best Buy or Target or something like that and pick up a decent webcam. And maybe I can link myself up onto YouTube and do a live Q&A. So if anybody has any opinions on that or ideas about that or how the hell I even do that, feel free to leave it in the comments below, and I'll look into it in the next few weeks. And it might be something nice and different for this channel for me to try one of these days. So I've been thinking about a lot of stuff as far as doing some new content and everything, and that might be a really good idea. So Anyway, I guess that's it for the channel news. I will catch you guys this Sunday after Payback with a results and reaction video, so check out my channel a couple of hours, maybe 3 to 4 hours after the show. I should have something up. My plan now is to be home live tweeting during Payback, although my schedule right now currently at work is really up in the air. We're about to start another busy season here, and we're just a little bit short-staffed here or there, so I'm finding myself at work a lot. So hopefully Sunday will not be an issue, and I'll be up here for Payback live tweeting, so please join me. And I guess I'll catch you guys in a couple of days after the pay-per-view. So take care, and I will talk to you then. Until next time, peace.